Well, welcome to the podcast. Today I have a very, very special guest. She's been in the marketing and advertising industry over 23 years. She's an entrepreneur. She's worked with both international and Australian companies. And these days she runs a very, very busy agency all by herself with all her staff all around her. Welcome to the podcast, Tamlyn van Zyst. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I see you're all branded today in your normal orange.
I am in my orange, that's right.
Now, for our international guests especially, where do you live?
I live on the outskirts of Sydney. It's Sydney Southwest.
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably 40 minutes out from Sydney.
And have you always lived out there?
Bits and pieces of the area. So originally I was born in the area of Limia. So we stayed there for about 10 years and then moved out to the sticks. My parents wanted to get 5 acres and we went to Tamlyns. Tamlyns is the word. So a little bit further out than the skirts. And then came back when I got engaged. I came a bit closer back to where I started. So yeah.
So what were you like at school? Were you a good student or did you hide down the back and cause trouble?
Oh no, I was a quiet one.
Really?
Yeah, I was a quiet one. I used to get teased. Yeah. No, school wasn't the best thing. I didn't enjoy it.
So when you're at school, did you always think you'd end up in advertising and marketing?
Yeah, I had a good feel for it. My dad's was a graphic designer, so and he worked in a multinational industry, and I always thought I'd work with him. Or when I was about 5 or 6, I used to say, "Dad, I'll be your colorist." I'll be, something like that. So I had, I used to draw all the time. Like you would constantly see me drawing, coloring in competitions. That's what I, before computers, was coloring pencils, and that was it for me. And so I had some sort of thing happening with the creative side of me.
Yep. So you're always what they class as a creative person.
Yeah, I'd also say I was a bit of an entrepreneur back. Even when I was 10, I'd say I did something a little naughty, actually. And ironically, it was oranges. It was the neighbours' oranges. And a friend of mine came over and we decided to get our neighbours' oranges and sell them down the street. So
did you give him a cut or did you keep it all for yourself?
I got caught. My parents made me take them back. So. But anyway, a little bit of, entrepreneurship there, I think.
At least they could have waited for you to sell them and then just taken the money back.
Yes. The honest living was probably washing Dad's car at that age. So, yeah.
So when you left school, did you go straight into advertising marketing or did you look around to do a bit of study and a couple of part-time jobs?
So when I was leaving school, I did study my HSC. I did 3-unit art, and I did what you had to do to get into TAFE or college, call it here. And I did a graphic design college course, and that was for 2 years. So I did that. And while I was doing that, I also did some like holiday jobs or worked on the weekend, doing bits and pieces, as much work experience as I could. Whereas friends were going to work with, going to fast food restaurants and working there, I was getting work experience actually in the industry, in the field. So that helped me when I first started. And then when I finished and graduated those 2 years, for me to walk into a job was pretty much straight away, where a lot of friends took up to 12 months to find a job. So I think, that's one thing that I did. And then over like 5 years later, I decided to go into studying more, and I studied marketing and advertising, which I wanted to understand because I was working with a lot of marketing managers at the time. So my second full-time job, I was working with marketing managers. But my first job, full-time, out when I left school was when I left college, was a printing company. So back then there was
the old way.
Yeah, the old way. I actually got to learn the traditional stuff.
Awesome.
So I was forever grateful around that, because that helped me understand how print worked, not just creating things just for fun, creating it with a purpose and an understanding of what was going to happen when it was reproduced or printed. So that was quite a few years ago. That's like 20 something years ago now. So
it sounds like you've most of the stuff you've learned has been practically based, not necessarily theory based.
Correct. Yeah.
And there's a big argument, especially in the creative industry, where you can go into uni for 3 or 4 years, come out, and you know it's in a book that's basically out of date. And the kids that go and do college, work in the industry, seem to, how can you say it, nail it a bit better and pick up what a customer's looking for a lot quicker than those just theory based. What do you reckon about that?
Yeah, I think in regards to theory versus practical, you get a bit much more understanding. It's not textbooks based. You know, we had to go off and do briefs and then come back and then pitch them. We even got to do things, pitch to real clients. Like they actually took us out in the real world and do this. Maybe they do that at university, I don't know, but from my understanding from friends that have gone down that route, they took a lot longer or necessarily didn't actually go into that field in the end.
Yeah.
So I think practical, it's a lot cheaper too. Although I think TAFE's got expensive. The college now here has got, it's privatized. So I think it's a little bit pricier than when I paid $500 a year or whatever it was.
Yeah. So you're working full time, you've got a safe job, and then you decide, you know what, I want to do this for myself. Well, how did you go from being full-time employed to starting your agency? I think it was 17 years ago, 18 years ago?
17 years ago. So I'll take a step back because in my first job that I was in printing, a massive life change happened for me. That being 21, my mum passed away.
Yep.
She had pancreatic cancer, wasn't in a good place.
Yep.
Didn't think I was in the right industry. I actually, one afternoon thought, I'm going to change my whole career. I was like, I'm going to be a police officer. That's what I'm going to do. I looked into it. I looked at going to university, and my dad said, "You're not doing it. You're not doing it."
Wow.
And he said, "You'll get shot." He had a lot of faith in me, didn't he? But I'm glad he pushed me to really think about it. And it was just that the job wasn't the right place to be. I had to find the right people to be around. So then I moved on and stayed 5 years in this other small boutique business. Yeah. But what happened is I met this along the way. You meet people, and there was one particular person that said, "I reckon you should start a business." And I'm like 25, 26, just got married, just finished my marketing course, and like, yeah, I could do this.
Yeah, why not?
It's going to be fine. It's a job. I'll be, it'll be fine. So the year of 2004, I decided to go out on my own. And but prior to that, I was doing a little bit at night just to build up a little bit of business and understanding, built a little bit of a client base up. And then, I made that decision, and I ended up subleasing out of a label printing company. And didn't pay rent, did the artwork for cheap at the time. I don't know if that was young and naive or take it a good opportunity, So
were you scared?
Oh yeah, I remember the first day. I was like, "What do I do?" I put my desk and my computer and a printer and mind you, my computer was my dad gave me a wedding gift, was the computer. So Right. No, I'm very grateful on that too. But I started and I was like, "Oh, what do I do?" I'm like, "Oh, I could go to the movies. I could do some fun things like that." And then I did it once and never did it again. So
how did you get your first lot of clients?
It was interesting. I think I got introduced to people. So this person that said, "You'd be good at it," introduced me to another printer. And so I got to meet them. And then that printer then said, "Well, actually, you could do my artwork." So I was art department for about 4 different printers. And I was also doing fixing artwork for people that were doing card manufacturing. Right. So I just built it slowly. And about, I think it was 6-8 months into it, I was starting to work like stupid hours, like till midnight, and I, couldn't function anymore. And the guy that I was subletting out, he said, I think you need to find someone. That means you need to find another person. I'm like, well, how do I go about that? I don't know. So I've never, you learn graphic design, you learn marketing, but they don't tell you how to run a business or do any of those things. So at that stage, I didn't know about mentors or anything like that. So I was asking along the way and kind of finding my way as we grew. And, I found someone that could work part-time, and they did that for about a year or two, I think it was. And then I then had more work again, and I kept building it up. And then my dad, who actually ran his business, he didn't want to work for himself anymore. He wasn't really able to there where he was, and for particular reasons. And I said, well, why don't you work for me? And he's like, oh, I can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you can. So he started working for me, and he worked for me for about I think 12 years. And then it got to the point I ended up putting someone else on that actually I used to work with.
Yep.
And then I had 3 by 6 meters. It was a very small spot. It was probably not even this size, the length of this. And there was about 3 people working there. And then I decided, I think I'm going to have to find something else. And I brought it back home for a year. And then I fell pregnant in 2007 and went, can't do this here anymore. So then found some other premises on my own, which
that'll teach you to work from home.
Yeah, that's right. And then I have my premises in Liverpool, which is halfway between here and Sydney.
Yeah.
And I was there for 7 years, and I've had a team up to 11 at one point, and brought it back down to 4. Due to different things. I've got young kids, and I had a second child in between all that too. So
when I'm listening to your story, and when I go and speak to some people, or they come to me looking for help, a lot of them don't know the difference between advertising and marketing and branding.
Yeah.
Now, these are where you really shine. I've seen your work. I've spoken to people who are your customers, and they rave about what you do. If someone's trying to launch a new business, or they've got a business that's stagnant, and they say, hey, Tamlyn, they're totally confused. What is marketing? What is advertising? How do you approach that with them, and how do you educate them in what the difference is and what they should be looking for?
Well, usually when they come to me and they've been in business for maybe a year or 2, or they've been in business for a while and their brand is a bit stagnant, or that usually there's a problem. There's an underlying problem when they come. And it's either they're not getting leads or not getting the right client. They don't technically ask technical questions in terms of what's advertising or marketing. They're usually lost at that particular point. And marketing is, I guess, it's a form of strategy, and it's a form of understanding who your customer is, and having a vision, and understanding all those, those bits. There's parts of the marketing mix we have to think about: price, product placement, all those. There's about 7 of them. And advertising is part of promotion. So it's when we talk about advertising, it's a tactic. It's something. You need to have strategy first in order to be able to advertise or create a campaign. Or and when you talk about branding, we have, when I go through workshops, or when I'm teaching someone about their brand, we work with their foundations first. Foundations meaning, what their, who their ideal customer is, who their competitors are, what their values are, what their goals are, their point of difference, all those things. So you have to get those right first. A lot of people go, I just want a logo. And I'm like, oh no. And they have no idea that I don't even care about the logo at this point. When you come and see me, I need to understand your business. I need to understand you, how you work, and your end user. And the most important thing, and I don't know if every other graphic designer thinks this way, or every other marketer, but you really need to get into the shoes of the end customer.
True.
So, and if I can help them delve into that and understand that, then I can help them develop a really good brand.
So digital now, especially post-COVID, everything collapsed before, or people panicked and shut, and the e-commerce markets, everything moved. no one knew quite where, and digital, which was always there and always bubbling away, going, well, has all of a sudden exploded. Online ordering, Zoom, robots, the whole lot's gone absolutely nuts. Where does that fit now when people say, like, your Facebooks, your ClickFunnels and all of that, where does that fit in advertising, marketing or branding?
Well, I guess everyone has had to change, like or quite a few people out there and running their businesses, specifically like cafes and things like that. They had to change their things. In terms of the way do you want to rephrase? What did you say again? Sorry.
Where does digital fit now, post-COVID, when it comes to advertising, branding, and marketing?
Long day. So it's changed a lot. You really do have to think about the different, like your key messaging. And, there's ways to do things for, a lot of people don't have a lot of money at the moment.
Yep.
So there's a lot of ways to do things without, paying per click and things like that. So you do have to think about that funnel. And I think you still have to think the online side of things in terms of what you can do organically first, and then secondary is what you can do paid. And there's a lot you can do from an organic point of view. So for example, shopping centers, I do a lot of work with shopping centers.
You do,
I do a lot of the marketing side of things. Well, of course, all the events side of things just completely stopped. So what did we do there? We had to work with, you can't bring people into a shopping center. You can't message it that way. How do you either give back or communicate or be able to inform people? So each industry is different. In the way that you can leverage now. There'd be like people buying online type of things. Those, about telling story is important. That's something that, you can leverage off in terms of like cafes. They had to go from, people taking, orders through Uber and things like that. Some didn't even have that set up.
True.
Some people didn't even have click to collect or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I mean, it's changed a lot. So in the last 12 months, and the people that didn't change with it, they're gone. They're gone. So.
There's been some big brands fall over around the world too that have done that. Do you see now that the marketing and advertising is what I would call is like quicksand? You don't know what's going to work, what isn't, on how well. With print media and radio and television, do you see a future for them now in the marketing and advertising space?
I think they all have a place, and depending where your audience is, there's needs for certain different things.
Yeah.
So, radio may not work for one, but it would work for another company. It really depends on what you're trying to do. But if you are using one of those mediums, you have to be able to measure it. You have to have some sort of call to action. If you can't measure the form of advertising, at least with digital, you can measure it. With something, for example, for radio, you can measure it if you're using a 1300 number or a particular email or something like that. It's a way of funneling. But you have to think about those things. Is it correct for the right audience as well?
Wow, it's certainly it's a moving feast, isn't it?
It is. And print, some people say it's dead, but it depends what it's for.
Do you think it's just changing?
I think it's changing. Like, for example, there's this thing called tapped cards at the moment. I don't know if you've seen them.
No.
They're like I think they've got a what do you call it, microchip side of thing in the card itself. And I think it's a really smart thing to do, because you can, if you're networking now in a COVID situation, handing a card over isn't probably the right way to do it. But you can tap on the phone and then you have all these details on there and it's transferred. So there's some people out there being innovative about what they can do, and they're changing it. So
if I had to say to somebody, I need you to go and see Tamlyn because you need to do your get your advertising marketing. And they're just starting it. They're a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm.
What are the 4 most important things someone starting out in any business need to know before they come and see a marketing and advertising person?
Okay. Firstly, you need to work out who you're going to be marketing to, right? Who your audience and customer is.
Yep.
But firstly, once you, I guess, you understand that side of things, a business plan is really important.
Yeah.
A marketing plan, but if you don't understand who your market is, then coming to a marketer or a branding agency is ideal. Some people fall in the pit of they think of a great name, or they think they've thought of a great name, and then 12 months later they realize that someone else has got it in another state that's either gone bust or they've got a bad reputation.
Yeah.
So going and doing your homework on that name or your business name is important. So in Australia they have the Australian Business Registration. You've got IP Australia, but in America or overseas, there's each country probably has their own organizations that they follow to find that information out. But trademarking and understanding if the business is actually registered in your country is probably one of your first things you need to figure out before you come knocking on any brand agency's door.
And does colour still play a big part of when you're putting a campaign together? Like some people say, don't use red because it's a danger colour, or don't use green, or don't use this. Is that still part of it, or has that changed over the years?
I would say when we're building brand identity, colour still comes into it. Depends where if it's evoking a particular emotion or if it's a different message. But you've also got to think in different countries, other colours mean other things. So
that's true. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So targeting in your own country, like in Australia, there's certain colours that wouldn't hurt anyone, but then in another country it may be quite disrespectful for using it. So colour can be very important, or is important. And orange. I tell you why. Do you want to know why I wear orange and what orange is about?
Why not? I mean, everyone watching the video, and I know when they hear about this on Spotify and that, they'll have a link to your website and they're going to go, everything's orange. What is this, girl?
I'm not crazy. So orange is the Dutch colour. And my surname is Van Zyst, and so my great-grandparents are from Holland. And so that's part of the reason why I wanted the Dutch heritage in my branding. Also, orange is a creative colour, so, and it's vibrant, and I've owned it. I own it like Capri owns purple in our community around here. People know who exactly I am, but you don't have to go to that extent. But I think it has certainly assisted in brand recognition. I've branded other people specifically for personal branding as well. I've branded one particular person where red was their color, and they wear red, their hair's red, everything's red. So there's you can go to one extreme or to another, but larger corporations, a color in one little simple that isn't just done overnight. That's touch points and brand recognition and lots
Coca-Cola red and Mazda red, and there's a whole heap of them. But I mean, they're registered colors to them.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, you can't do anything with the Capri purple either. So
no, that's true. You keep mentioning branding and brand equity.
Yeah.
For someone listening who is wanting to know more, how would you describe what is brand when it comes to building a business?
Well, brand it can be part of an emotion. It can be the look and feel. It can be the messaging. It's pretty much everything that's built up that either someone believes or perceives. So you can create a brand that looks cheap and nasty and it's got that cheerfulness to it. And you can make them understand it, if you understand the messaging, the target audience, you're building this, this perceived idea around something. So in terms of for us, Tamlyn Creative is someone who works, and our tagline is "Design with empathy."
Yes.
So the reason behind that is because we empathize with the end user. So we build, all these parts, and I call it foundations. I go back to it because you're building foundations for people to understand who you are, and it's an identity. So once they understand the identity, people can then relate, or they might love you, they might hate you, so a brand can do all sorts of things to someone. It can have one effect on one person and someone else will be another. So it's very important to be able to make sure that you're giving the right perceived messaging around it, and that you are attracting the right people or the right thing. So in terms of brand assets as such, so when someone is building a brand, they might trademark, they might look at all the IP, I call it IP. And when we're talking about that would be, your web, your domain names, your social handles, all those things. And some people don't go and register all those bits and pieces. They're leaving themselves open for someone else to take those. So there's bits and pieces. It all adds up.
Foundations, as you say.
Those foundations. So, but you've got to understand all that. If you don't understand your values, your competitors, your audience, your point of difference, and all those things, then someone else is going to make that decision for you, aren't they? So,
well, yeah. I mean, Apple didn't invent the iPhone as such, did they? It was other people had it, and then they decided to take it and improve it, and
that's right.
They've been market leaders since. What's the biggest mistake you see business make when it comes to advertising and marketing?
Biggest mistake?
Just in your opinion.
I don't think people tell the story enough, a brand story, like especially people starting off. I think they believe they have to spend money. People think they need to spend money to be able to be successful.
Yeah.
As I say, find ways to do things organically first.
Yeah.
I find that people that start a business, they, like I didn't have mentors, didn't have the right people around them to build something. So I say you have a bloody good accountant, a good solicitor, a great marketing agency, a branding agency, and a mentor. I think they're the 4 key best friends that you need in a business when you're starting up and you're building a brand.
One of the things I see, especially on social, and then quite often you see it in ads, is where people just use an iPhone to take a photo or take a video. And while the idea is there, it's absolute rubbish. It's affecting them because it's a terrible shot. It's a terrible video. How important is it, especially with social media now being such a big part of advertising, marketing, for people to take the time to look at the shot and at least have a decent camera, as in not expensive, but decent.
Not as
think about what they're doing.
No, I think you've really got to think about taking pride in what you're producing, whether it is on an iPhone or that you bring someone in to shoot. You really need to think about that. I know some people say, oh, raw's, live it, be raw and things like that. Yeah. Some of it, yes. Yeah. But then I think there's a point where you've got to set yourself a bar, and because what's your competitor doing? That's the other thing. Maybe they are doing maybe they are throwing stuff out there and it doesn't matter. Well, hey, you need to look better than them. But I do believe first impressions, I know it sounds the same, everyone says it, but first impressions count. And
does that include with what they're wearing?
Oh, I reckon, yeah.
I mean, it's a serious question.
People judge people judge people. Unfortunately, that's the way things are. If I came in here with shorts and a t-shirt on, I think people would see me a lot differently. I don't have my slippers on.
You've got your Ugg boots on, and anyone in Australia knows what we're talking about.
This morning I did, but no, but it does create a judgment, and you're part of your brand. So, someone who goes out there to mow lawns or something, well, you don't see them in a suit. You wouldn't want to. You'd hope that they understand how to manicure a lawn and they wear the right attire, and you go, well, they're proud of their brand. But if they're taking photographs, I always say, think about what you're photographing, and does it tell a story? Does it create emotion? Does it look good enough?
Yeah.
People scrolling. There's so much stuff on this thing that you just white noise to some extent too. Video is becoming really important too now. So it's not just static images for video. So having a good little setup is important. You don't have to spend a fortune. I've even changed my business. So it's not just graphic design now. It's evolved over time. So a brand's evolved as well. So, your direction in your business will change. So 17 years from print design to, developing a brand with animation and web and digital and videography and all those components we have to think about now. That's become quite complex.
So just a couple more questions before we wind up. What is the best advice you could give someone in small business when it comes to marketing and advertising?
Have a plan.
Yeah.
I think have the right people around you, as I said. And think about it. If it's an idea and you haven't, go and test it.
Yeah.
If it's a product, go and talk to people about it. Survey people, ask them questions. Do they want it? Is it something that people need? That's the thing. So I think that's important. A lot of people go, I've got this great idea and I'm going to make a fortune out of it. And then they find out, that there's no use for it.
Yeah. So that's true.
Do your research. I think that's important.
If you think back and you've walked back in time to 20-something years ago, and you've run into yourself on the 65 kilometres out of Sydney, which is, I know, where you lived, and you're on the street corner, and your 18-year-old self walks up and goes, oh, okay, hello. What bit of advice would you tell me? What would you say to yourself if you ran into your 18-year-old self?
Ooh. That's a hard one, because I think I'd say be confident. Like, I am a completely different person to who I was 18 years ago. Most people probably are. But I'd say that don't second guess yourself.
Yep.
Just be confident. Enjoy the process.
Yep.
And don't look back.
Yes, we've all been guilty of that. Yes.
Yeah, don't look back. I think say, it's okay when you fall down, you'll get back up again. And that you're going to be okay. That's, I think, I would tell my as an 18-year-old, you'll be okay.
Now, the marketing industry worldwide is full of, you nearly call them enigmas. People who are so well known through, mostly now these days, through social media. They're brilliant at what they do. And of course, the person in front of the camera is quite often a different person behind the camera. Mm-hmm. If I turn around and said to you, you could have lunch with one person, either from the industry or from sales or marketing anywhere in the world, who would you have lunch with and why?
I think just the first person that comes to mind.
Yeah, first person that came to your mind.
Richard Branson.
Yeah.
Why would you say some wild and wacky stuff? And he's going into space. What the hell?
Yeah. Did you offer to market that for him?
Yeah. that, yeah, I would probably ask him.
Yeah, awesome. So if anyone listening to this, it doesn't matter from where they are in the world or in Australia, wanted to get in touch with you to see if you can help them out, how do they find Tamlyn?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Tamlyn van Zyst, Vanzyst. They can find me on my website, which is tamlyncreative.com.au, and Facebook and Instagram. Find me on Tamlyn Creative. So TAMLYNCREATIVE.
You know, it's been a pleasure to interview you today. You have given out some fantastic help to a lot of people when they listen to this.
Oh, thank you. No, it's been great. It was an honor and a pleasure. And anyone's got any questions, please don't feel they can't message me. I'm happy to help. I always want to give back to people as well. So happy for them to reach out.
That's awesome. And if anyone missed any of that, I will put it in the show notes later. So thank you so much. And as we say at the end of every podcast, have a groovy day.